I swear every single person who goes into Biomed has heard some kind of rumor or myth to do with the year, and that either like scares them forever before they even start going into university, or just puts them off the degree itself. So that's why today I'm going to be busting some of those myths so that you guys get a more clear idea of what the entire year actually is like. Okay, so the first myth is that there is absolutely no time to socialize when doing Biomed. Now, this is somewhat not completely true. We can all agree that Biomed is a degree that does require more studying and more time spent focused on academics than other degrees. But you can still find time to socialize. For me, because I was at Halls last year, it was quite easy for me to fit socializing in with uni. That's because it was just so much easier to take breaks between studying, because people would just come into your room for a chat. We would either go into the common room to play games, or we would spend like a solid 30 minutes, 35 minutes at lunch or dinner just chatting. And also because I was literally living at in the campus, I had so much more time to go to club events as well as spend time meeting other people who were not doing my degree. When things went online in semester 2, I also took up a part-time job, so I did tutoring, and I was able to do 5 to 8 hours a week, as well as go to dance class in the weekend. So there was still time to continue with your hobbies, continue doing things that you want to do, continue working as well while doing Biomed. It's just that you need to try and fit it into your schedule. And I would also highly recommend that you do keep up with your hobbies, because that's a great way of stress relief. So in general, yes, there is time to socialize. It's just that if you feel like you need to take a break from studying, then you have to prioritize that aspect of going out with friends and fit it into your schedule. But other than that, yes, you will find yourself studying a bit more than usual during the weekends. But I think that's just something that you just have to slowly adjust to and accept because you're doing Biomed. The next myth is paying external companies to tutor you will guarantee you getting into med. Now, this is a bit of a touchy subject, and I'm not going to delve into it too much, but one thing I just want to say is it really just depends on your personal circumstance. So last year when I did Biomed, I didn't do any tutoring, neither did I pay any external company for that. For me, I made that decision early on because I looked at all the resources online and I decided that there was plenty of free resources for me to use, and I feel like that would be enough to support me in my learning. And also, tutoring is very expensive in general, and med tutoring is more expensive, as well as the fact that it doesn't always guarantee entrance into medicine. However, there are still people who do tutoring and some do get in, so I guess deciding on that is dependent on your personal circumstance. If you think that you really require the support, then go for it, because yes, tutoring helps in personalizing the learning and really targeting areas that you really need help with. And if you think that you can afford it financially as well, then you can go for it, but I just don't endorse any company. The next myth is online exams are easier than in-person exams. Now, I remember how happy people were when they announced that exams would be online, especially how happy Biomed students were, because we thought that it would be like so much easier, but that's a complete lie. They definitely make the exams harder, so they change it up so that the questions are based more on understanding concepts rather than straight recall. As someone who had in-person exams in semester 1 and then we switched to online exams in semester 2, personally I found in-person exams much easier and just less stressful in a way. Probably because we actually studied for those exams. I can definitely tell you online exams are 1, so demotivating, you just don't want to study for them. 2, you lose track of time quite easily. 1, it's because in in-person exams they kind of have like the whiteboard with all the times and then they like rub it off, etc. But another thing is also in online exams, you spend a lot more time navigating through your resources and all your notes, and you rely on that so heavily that you don't realize how quickly time is passing. And another thing is it just doesn't give you that sense of accomplishment at the end of it, because you're like literally sitting in your room, and then once you're done, it's just like, I just finished something, you know? It doesn't give you that sense of accomplishment that you just work so hard towards an exam and it's done. To combat this, I would say definitely make a cheat sheet. So summarize the key learning concepts in 1 or 2 pages of things that you always forget, and that just makes it so much more efficient in terms of navigating through the resources, and you will actually study for online exams. Because at the end of the day, it's not really that you're learning content just to finish an exam, you're learning it for that long-term retention, because somewhere down the path it might be useful and you would probably want to know it. So that's the real focus here. So the next myth is that it's hard to make friends in Biomed. Okay, so Biomed, yes, it's a competitive degree and it might seem like it's really hard to make friends because you might feel like everyone's just trying to beat each other. But do understand that everyone is still human, everyone is still really nice. It just means that you have to put yourself out there a bit more to make friends. I think it's definitely easier to make friends in labs and tutorials compared to lectures, because lectures is quite hardcore and intense. You're literally like writing down a lot of things when the lecturer is speaking, so you don't have time to socialize and talk and get to know the other person. I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but join clubs if you feel like you haven't made any Biomed students, because clubs you can meet people who are outside of your degree and it just opens you up to meeting like-minded people. If you want, you can live at halls. It is quite expensive, so only do that if you can financially afford it, but you can still make good friends from there. And also don't forget about your high school friends. Even if they do a completely different degree, still stay in touch with them because they could be part of a larger support system for you. Okay, the next myth is that to do Biomed, you need to be like super smart. No, you don't. So everyone starts off at the same place, and I think I did mention in an earlier video that for me in NCA, we didn't do the cells topic, whereas Cambridge students did. So in terms of that, yes, the Cambridge students had a slight advantage in terms of they were exposed to the content prior to Biomed first year, but that doesn't mean that they're at a huge advantage. Like, first of all, do you remember everything you learned in high school? No, you don't. So I guess majority of us started off at the same page. We did struggle the same way that everyone else struggled. I think the more important quality that you really need to have is to work hard and to be committed, because there are definitely going to be times where your friends are hanging out, your friends are partying, and you need to study because you might have an assignment coming up, you might have a really important test coming up. But I guess that's something that you sign up to when you go into Biomed, since it is such a competitive degree. But if you're dedicated to achieving the final goal that you really want to get to, then it's not a problem. I don't think you need to be academically smart prior to the first year to accomplish your goals. I think a lot of us experience imposter syndrome when we go into Biomed. We're like, can we actually do this? Do you really think that it's possible to get into med? And that's natural, but just trust in yourself. You would be surprised at how much potential you have, and be surprised at how much you can actually do when you're put in such an environment. I know quite a few students who never really studied in high school, and then suddenly they come into first year and they share the same core papers as Biomed, and it's just like a switch flipped. Like, they completely changed into a different person. And it shows how much that they were flexible in their attitude towards learning, how much they adapted depending on the environment around them. And they were like doing extremely well in terms of learning the content. Some of them even just picked it up much easier than I did. And I was just so amazed by that. Like, you really will be surprised at how much you can accomplish in that first year. The next myth is that health science is easier than Biomed. So health science and Biomed are 2 first year courses that you do as pre-med, and then once you finish that, you can apply into clinical programs. Now, there is sometimes a rumor that health science is easier than Biomed, and that is completely a lie. So both courses will share 4 core papers, and then you have 4 non-core papers, and the difficulty of those papers are similar, but it really depends on your personal strengths and weaknesses. So for health science, if you're good at English or writing, then health science would probably be a bit easier because it's quite English based or English rich, whereas for biomed it's quite science based and very factual concepts. So for me personally, I'm a more sciencey person. I absolutely hate writing essays. I will probably take like 10 years to write one essay. It just doesn't come to me naturally. That's why I chose biomed, because we don't really have that kind of long written answers. And so I knew that if I did do health science, it would definitely be harder for me. In addition, another difference is that health science is more, I think they do a bit more teamwork projects, whereas biomed, it's more individual projects and assignments and quizzes. So that again is based on your personal preference. Now, the one thing that is really different with both the courses is that in semester 2, biomed has 4 labs per fortnight, whereas health science only has 1. And so this straight away might seem that biomed is a lot harder and a lot more, I guess, time consuming. But in a way, if you are a science oriented person, then the 4 labs are not difficult, because 3 of them are actually very straightforward and like you can get it done quite quickly. It's just the med-sci lab that is quite hard, and health science you share med-sci, so I think it doesn't really make too much of a difference. And also, like in those 4 labs you get so much support, so it's not like you're left on your own and struggling. Both courses do have the same amount of seats available for medicine, because it's really just separated into undergrad and postgrad, and undergrad is both biomed and health science. So yeah, there's equal weighting of seats. So in conclusion, biomed and health science, there are both parts that are easy and parts that are hard. Choose depending on what your personal strengths and weaknesses are. The last myth is MCQ exams and tests are easier than short answer questions. So we all kind of come into uni and we realize that the exams and tests, or some of them, are MCQs, especially in first year. And we probably rejoice at that fact. But I know for biomed, the MCQ exams or tests are actually not that easy. So what they do is, those MCQ questions require a bit more deeper, more accurate understanding of concepts than short answer questions, because they kind of test you on the finer details. Because what they'll do is they will give you like one option as like a phrase, and they might change one word. And so you'll be skimming along the options and be like, okay, the general idea is there and it's probably correct. But when you analyze it deeper, you realize that there's one word that makes the entire phrase or option incorrect. And that's why it's so easy in MCQ exams to misread the options and then get that question wrong. So personally, I find MCQ questions slightly harder just because they do try to trip you up on the wording. Anyways, that's all the myths that I could think about, the ones that I kind of heard when I was in high school doing year 13. If there are any myths or rumors that you heard about biomed, then put them in the comments and I will definitely go through them and answer any questions you have. Yeah, hopefully this video helped you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!